ثم أدبر يسعى.
And then he turned back to have recourse to his craftiness.
10. According to the details given at other places in the Quran, he summoned skillful magicians from all over Egypt and made them produce serpents out of sticks and cords in front of the assembled people so that they were convinced that Moses, peace be upon him, was not a prophet but a magician, and that the miracle worked by him of turning a staff into a serpent could also be worked by other magicians. But this device of his recoiled upon himself, and the defeated magicians themselves admitted that what Moses, peace be upon him, had displayed was no magic but a miracle.
فحشر فنادى.
And gathered his people and declared.
11. This proclamation of Pharaoh has been mentioned at several places in the Quran. On one occasion he said to the prophet Moses, peace be upon him, if you took another one as a deity beside me, I would cast you in the prison. Surah Ash-Shu'ara, Ayat 29. On another occasion he had addressed his courtiers, saying, O chiefs, I do not know of any god of yours other than myself. Surah Al-Qasas, Ayat 38. By this Pharaoh did not mean, nor could he ever mean, that he himself was the creator of the universe and he had made the world, nor that he denied the existence of Allah and claimed to be Lord of the universe, nor that he regarded only himself as a deity of the people in the religious sense. In the Quran itself there is a clear testimony that as regards to religion he himself worshipped other gods. Once his courtiers said to him, will you leave Moses, peace be upon him, and his people free to spread chaos in the land, and let them discard you and your deities? Surah Al-Araf, Ayat 127. And in the Quran itself this saying of the Pharaoh has also been cited. Had Moses, peace be upon him, been sent by Allah, why were not bracelets of gold sent down to him, or a company of angels as attendants? Surah Az-Zukhruf, Ayat 53. Thus, in fact, he called himself a god and supreme deity not in the religious but in the political sense. What he meant was that he possessed the sovereign rights. No one beside him had the right to rule in his kingdom, and there was no superior power whose orders could be enforced in the land. For further explanation, see N. 85 of Surah Al-Araf, N. 21 of Surah Taha, Ns 24, 26 of Surah Ash-Shu'ara, Ens 52, 53 of Surah Al-Qasas, N. 49 of Surah Az-Zukhruf.
فقال أنا ربكم الأعلى.
I am the supreme Lord of you all.
فأخذه الله نكال الآخرة والأولى.
Thereupon Allah seized him for the chastisement of the world to come as well as of the present.
إن في ذلك لعبرة لمن يخشى.
Surely there is a great lesson in it for whoever would fear Allah.
12. Who fears the consequences of denying God's messenger, which the Pharaoh experienced in the past.
أأنتم أشد خلقا أم السماء بناها.
Is it harder to create you or the heaven? But Allah built it.
13. Now arguments are being given for the possibility of resurrection and life after death, and there being the very demand and requirement of wisdom. 14. Here, creation implies the recreation of men, and the heaven the entire firmament which contains countless stars and planets, and innumerable solar systems and galaxies, means to say, you think that your resurrection after death is something extremely improbable, and you express wonder saying, how is it possible that when our very bones will have decayed and become rotten the scattered particles of our bodies will be reassembled and made living once again? But have you ever also considered whether the great universe is harder to create, or your own recreation in the form in which you were created in the first instance? The God who created you in the first instance cannot be powerless to create you once again. This same argument for life after death has been given at several places in the Quran. For example, in Surah Yasin it has been said, is not he who created the heavens and the earth able to create the like of them, again? Why not, when he is the skillful creator? Verse 81. And in Surah Al-Mu'min it has been said, surely the creation of the heavens and the earth is a greater task than the creation of man, but most people do not know. Verse 57.
رفع سمكها فسواها.
and raised its vault high, and proportioned it,
وأغطش ليلها وأخرج ضحاها
and covered its night with darkness, and brought forth from it its day.
15. The night and the day have been attributed to the heaven, for the night falls when the sun of the heaven sets, and the day dawns when it rises. The word cover has been used for the night in the sense that after the sun has set, the darkness of the night so spreads over the earth, as though it has covered it from above by a curtain.
وَالْأَرْضَ بَعْدَ ذَلِكَ دَحَاهَا
And thereafter spread out the earth.
16. After that he spread out the earth, does not mean that Allah created the earth after the creation of the heavens, but it is a style of expression just like our saying after making mention of something, then this is noteworthy. The object is not to express the sequence of occurrence between the two things but to draw attention from the first to the second thing, although both may exist together. Several instances of this style are found in the Quran, e.g., in Surah Al-Qalam it is said, "He is oppressive, and after that, ignoble by birth." This does not mean that first he became oppressive and then he turned ignoble by birth, but it means, he is oppressive, and above all, ignoble by birth. Likewise, in Surah Al-Balad it is said, "Should free a slave, then be of those who believe." This also does not mean that first he should act righteously, and then believe, but that along with doing righteous deeds he should also be characterized by belief. Here, one should also understand that at some places in the Quran the creation of the earth has been mentioned first, and then the creation of the heavens, as in Surah Al-Baqarah, Ayat 29, and at others the creation of the heavens has been mentioned first, and then of the earth, as in these verses. There is, in fact, no contradiction in this. At no place the object is to tell what was created first, and what afterwards, but wherever the context requires that the excellences of the power of Allah be made prominent, the heavens have been mentioned first, and then the earth. And where the context requires that the people be made to appreciate and acknowledge the blessings that they are benefiting by on the earth, the mention of the earth has been made before that of the heavens. For further explanation see Nas 13:14 of Surah Hamim as-Sajda.
أخرج منها ماءها ومرعاها
And brought out of it its water and its pasture.
17. Pasture, here does not only imply pasture and fodder for the animals but all kinds of herbal produce suitable for consumption both by man and by animal. An example of the use of rat, which is generally used in Arabic for the grazing animals, is found in Surah Yusuf, Ayat 12, signifying that this word is sometimes used for man also. The brothers of Joseph said to their father, "Send Joseph with us tomorrow that he may freely graze and enjoy sport." Here the word grace, rat, for the child has been used in the meaning that he may move about freely in the jungle and pluck and eat fruit.
وَالْجِبَالَ أَرْسَاهَا
And firmly fixed in it mountains,
مَتَاعًا لَكُمْ وَلِأَنْعَامِكُمْ
all this as provision for you and your cattle.
18. In these verses arguments have been given for the resurrection and life after death from two aspects. First, that it is not at all difficult to establish these for the power of that God who has made this vast and huge universe with such wonderful balance, and this earth with such provisions. Second, that the pointers to the perfect wisdom of Allah which are clearly visible in the universe and the earth, point out that nothing is happening here purposelessly. The balance that exists between countless stars and planets and galaxies in the heavens testifies that all this has not happened haphazardly, but there is a well-thought-out plan working behind it. The regular alternation of the night and day is an evidence that this system has been established with supreme wisdom and knowledge for making the earth a home and place of settlement. On this very earth are found regions where the alternation of the night and day takes place within 24 hours, and also those regions where there are longer days and longer nights. A very large part of the Earth's population lives in the first kind of the regions. Then as the days and nights go on becoming longer and longer, life goes on becoming harder and harder and population thinner and thinner, so much so that the regions where there are 6-month-long days and 6-month-long nights are not at all fit for human settlement. Arranging both these types of the land on this very earth, Allah has provided the evidence that this regular order of the alternation of night and day has not come about accidentally but has been brought about with great wisdom precisely in accordance with the scheme to make the earth a place fit for human settlement, likewise spreading out the earth so that it becomes a fit place to live in, providing in it that water which should be palatable for man and animal and a cause of growth for vegetation, setting in it mountains and creating all those things which may become a means of life for both man and animal. All these are a manifest sign that they are not chance happenings of the purposeless works of a carefree person, but each one of these has been arranged purposefully by a supreme, wise being. Now every sensible and intelligent man can consider for himself whether the necessity and occurrence of the hereafter is the requirement of wisdom, or its negation. The person who in spite of seeing all this says that there is no hereafter, in fact says that everything in the universe is happening wisely and purposefully, but only the creation of man on the earth as a being endowed with sense and power is meaningless and foolish, for there could be nothing more purposeless than delegating to man vast powers of appropriation in the earth, and providing him an opportunity to do good as well as evil deeds but then failing to ever subject him to accountability.
فإذا جاءت الطامة الكبرى.
But when the great calamity will come about.
19. This implies the resurrection for which the words at Tamat al-Kubra have been used. Tama by itself is a grievous calamity which afflicts everybody. Then it has been further qualified by the word Kubra, great, which shows that the mere word Tama is not enough to describe fully its intensity and severity.
يوم يتذكر الإنسان ما سعى.
On the day when man will recall all his strivings.
20. That is, when man will see that the same day of accountability of which he was being foretold in the world has come, he will start remembering each one of his misdeeds done in the world even before his records are handed over to him. Some people experience this even in the world. If at some time they come across a dangerous situation suddenly when death seems to be staring them in the face, their whole life film flashes across their mind's eye all at once.
وَبُرِّزَتِ الْجَحِيمُ لِمَنْ يَرَى.
And hell will be brought in sight for anyone to see.
فَأَمَّا مَنْ طَغَى.
Then he who transgressed
وَآثَرَ الْحَيَاةَ الدُّنْيَا.
and preferred the life of this world.
فَإِنَّ الْجَحِيمَ هِيَ الْمَأْوَى.
Most surely his abode shall be hell.
وَأَمَّا مَنْ خَافَ مَقَامَ رَبِّهِ وَنَهَى النَّفْسَ عَنِ الْهَوَى.
But he who feared to stand before his Lord and restrained himself from evil desires,
فَإِنَّ الْجَنَّةَ هِيَ الْمَأْوَى.
most surely his abode shall be paradise.
21. Here, in a few words, it has been told briefly what shall be the criterion of the final judgment in the hereafter. One kind of the conduct of life in the world is that transgressing all bounds of service man should rebel against his God and should make up his mind that he would seek only the benefits and pleasures of this world in whatever way they could be sought and achieved. The other kind of conduct is that while man passes life in the world he should constantly keep in view the truth that ultimately one day he has to stand before his Lord, and should refrain from fulfilling the evil desires of the self only for the fear that if he earned an unlawful benefit in obedience to his self, or enjoyed an evil pleasure, what answer he would give to his Lord. The criterion of the judgment in the hereafter will be which of the two kinds of conduct he adopted in the world. If he had adopted the first kind of conduct, his permanent abode would be hell, and if he had adopted the second kind of conduct, his permanent home would be paradise.
يَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ السَّاعَةِ أَيَّانَ مُرْسَاهَا.
They ask you about the hour. When will it be?
22. The disbelievers of Makkah asked this question of the Prophet, peace be upon him, over and over again. By this they did not mean to know the time and date of the coming of resurrection but to mock it. For further explanation see N. 35 of Surah Al-Mulk.
فِيمَ أَنْتَ مِنْ ذِكْرَاهَا.
What concern do you have to speak about that?
إلى ربك منتهاها.
Its knowledge rests with your Lord.
إنما أنت منذر من يخشاها.
You are only a warner to him who has a fear of it.
23. This we also have explained in E.N. 36 of Surah Al-Mulk. As for the words, you are only a warner to him who fears it, they do not mean that it is not your duty to warn those who do not fear, but it means, your warning will benefit only him who fears the coming of that day.
كأنهم يوم يرونها لم يلبثوا إلا عشية أو ضحاها.
On the day they see it, they will feel as though they had stayed in the grave no more than one evening or one morning.
24. This theme has occurred at several places in the Quran and been explained in the following notes. For it C.N. 53 of Surah Yunus, E.N. 56 of Surah Bani Israel, E.N. 80 of Surah Taha, E.N. 101 of Surah Al-Mu'minun, E.N.S. 81, 82 of Surah Yarum, E.N. 48 of Surah